Labor Day weekend is always such a special time for me because it harkens me back to the weekend that I had my baby, and that happened 21 years ago. So wow, when I think about it, that's crazy that 21 years ago on Labor Day weekend, I remember that Labor Day very, very clearly. I remember the day of the birth very clearly. But before we get to that, let's go back to my pregnancy. And so this is my birth story. Yeah, I don't guess we have to know about the conception. So anyway, guys, very early into my pregnancy, at 6 weeks, I had obviously a missed period, and I had recently, like within that year, had a miscarriage. So I felt like I was pregnant again. So I took a home pregnancy test at 6 weeks, and it did show to be positive. It was like a very faint line, but it did show to be positive. So there was a clinic in the town where I lived in Detroit at the time, and I went to the clinic. It was called Summit Medical Center. If you're from Detroit, then you know Summit. And let's just say Summit does not have the reputation for the highest health care. They are literally a free clinic. And at the time, I was 31 years old. So for me, and I was working full time, but I had insurance, but you know, I lived in the city, and I was like, after work or before work, I'm just going to go by there. So I went, that was gross. Sorry, guys. So I went to Summit, and I took a pregnancy test, and I already had taken the test at home, and plus I had a feeling that I was pregnant. So basically I knew I was pregnant. So imagine my surprise when the girl came back and she said, when the way they did it then, and I don't even know if they're still open now, the way they did it then, you would just be like in this little hall, and they would watch the results with you. So she looked at the results, and she said, it's negative. And she just like handed me quickly all this paperwork on birth control and abstinence and everything like that. And she never even asked me like if I wanted to be pregnant or anything like that. So and then so I said, I was kind of taken aback, because when I was at home, it said that I was pregnant. So I looked at the test again, and she didn't throw it away. She just threw it to the side on the counter. And I looked at it again while she was giving me all my safe sex paperwork. And I said, well, what does it look like when you're pregnant? And she looked at it again, and she said, oh, never mind. She snatched the paperwork back. She was like, it's positive. And then she just started giving me a bunch of pamphlets on abortion. So I was like, wow, didn't really leave me with a good feeling of comfort that whatever was going on. So what I did was, like I said, I had a miscarriage like the year before. So I called my doctor, my OBGYN, and I scheduled an appointment. And so I went in, and then at 6 weeks it was confirmed. And I was so happy, guys, because a lot of little girls, when they're growing up, my nose looks so bell peppery today. A lot of little girls growing up want to be, pause for a second. There have been escape prisoner signs ever since, for like the video I sent, since Wednesday. They've been looking for these guys since Tuesday. It's a guy, a man, and a woman apparently escaped. They were murderers, and they escaped. So they're riding around, and I don't know why they can't find them, and why they think they're still in the same red GMC that they stole 5 days ago, but I guess that's all the information they have on them. So if you see a red GMC with a man and a woman, do not approach them, but call the police. Okay, so a little more. So yeah, like most little girls grow up and they want to be, you know, married and different things like that. I always wanted to be a newscaster in communications, and I just wanted to be a mom. I never like really dreamed of a wedding. I'm very practical and I'm very cheap, and I'm like, why would I pay all that money for other people to come see me get married? And then when I did get married, the very night of my wedding night, I said to my ex, I was like, you know, this should be good for a couple of years. I could see this being okay. So it was never a forever thing for me. I was just never that type person, but I did always want to be a mom. So when I left the doctor's office, I was just over the moon. I was so excited and had so many plans, and I wanted to have a little girl. And, you know, because I always loved kids, I was always the type of person that had other people's kids. You know, I had one of my nieces from the time she's not my niece, she's my cousin's daughter, but like the first day I laid eyes on her, I had her every day for like 3 years after that. And that was just the way I always was. I always had other people's children. So I was so excited because I was finally going to have my own baby, and I felt really positive about, you know, the pregnancy. And so my doctor told me, because I had had the miscarriage and because I was 31 years old, which was up in age, that, you know, I had to be really careful. And the fact that I was obese, I was very, very big. I was probably 260 when I got pregnant, which was my starting weight for keto. It's crazy. So anyway, I went to work and I told everybody, and you know, they were all happy for me because they knew about the miscarriage before. So that was at 6 weeks, and so around the 10th week I started to feel very I think I had like spotting, and so I was so nervous, and I ran to the doctor, and they ordered an ultrasound. And so while the lady was doing the ultrasound, if you've, I think it's like this in most doctors' offices, OBGYNs, like they have the pictures of like the fetus at different stages, and they also had this one picture of twins, and I was like, I'm having twins, and it just came to me like right then. And so I got down, you know, and I went into the doctor's office, and he said, well, hun, and he always was like that. He was very, he called you hun and sweetheart. He was real, I bet you people probably wouldn't like that these days, but he was, you know, but then he was like, honey, you're having twins. And I was like, said to myself, oh my God, I knew it. But what I came out my mouth was, but my kid's father, the dad already has twins, because from a prior relationship, he has twin girls. And he said, well, he's having some more. So, and that was at 10 weeks. So I went downstairs and I called my mom, and I said, I have some news for you. And then I said, I'm having a baby. And she said, yeah, you already told me that. I said, but I didn't tell you I was having twins. And it was just such an exciting time in my family. There are several sets of twins. There are several sets of twins on my mom's side of the family. So she has first cousins that are twins. And then from her mom's sister that had twins, then her granddaughters have twins. And so there's just twins. My niece has a set of twins. And like I said, on the other side, my children have twin sisters. So exciting pregnancy. And then my doctor reminded me again that now it's even more high risk. And so at 10 weeks, like the conception was like New Year's Eve. So at 10 weeks, we're like mid-March. And so he said, you know, we're going to take you out early and try to get you to carry the babies to at least 32 weeks or so. So I I didn't really get much bigger, which my doctor told me, you know, you're overweight. You don't have to, just because you're pregnant, you don't have to eat a lot. You just, you know, that's not an excuse to eat everything. You can still eat the same amount of food that you were eating before, and your babies will be well nourished. So, and I always had a fear of getting over 300 pounds. So he told me too, he said, I don't want you to get over 290 with this pregnancy. And I was like, but that's only 30 pounds and they're twins. And he was like, you'll be fine. So, yeah, so I went about my business. And like I said, I didn't get much bigger at first. And then, you know, I would go to the doctor monthly. And every time I would go, so much, you know, blood work every month, ultrasounds every month. Very, very, very expensive pregnancy. And so then, escape prisoner sign again. So, let's see. Oh, okay. So then around May, I started having cramping, and I went to the doctor, and my due date was October, like late September, October. And he said, okay, we're going to take you out. So they took me off of work right before Memorial Day, 1998. And I lived by myself. My children's father was out of the picture at that point. And so I was going through my pregnancy by myself. And so I was off work the whole summer, and I began to get bigger and bigger, and that was probably the most uncomfortable summer of my whole life. But in that summer, I was also riddled with anxiety because my mom had told me that childbirth, now mind you, she had 7 kids. So she told me that childbirth was the worst pain you would ever go through, that it is just a horrible, horrible thing. And so while I always wanted to be a mom, I was terrified to have a baby. And it didn't help that every friend of mine who had had a baby before me, which I was the last person of all my girlfriends to have a baby. So they had all told me, yeah, she ain't lying. That is the worst fear ever. So then people started making it worse, like, and oh my God, you're going to have 2. So the internet was just getting popular with forums back then. And so I was in a lot of forums for moms of twins, and I read what to expect when expecting. And I was just really into my pregnancy. I cannot think of a time in my life that was more exciting and scary at the same time. So, you know, when I left the doctor's office and he told me I was having twins, after I called my mom, I started thinking, oh my God, I have to get 2 of everything. And then it hit me that I'd have to pay for 2 babies in daycare. And so there was a lot that went into it. So because I am a planner and very anal, I started buying diapers like right after that. And I bought diapers all summer long. And I'm not a person, like I said, I never wanted to have a wedding because I didn't want to pay for people to come look at me get married. And I didn't want to have a baby shower for the same reason. I was like, the money that I'm going to spend on a baby shower, I'll just buy all my own stuff. So I didn't have a baby shower at all. And I started buying diapers, and I was on short-term disability that turned into long-term, but I was on short-term at that time, and so I was still getting a large portion of my check, and I lived very modestly, so I wasn't like starving. I was doing fine. And so I had a 2-bedroom flat, and so I started decorating the room, and I went with green and blue for the baby colors. And just, you know, it was just a summer of getting ready for the babies. So one of my good friends, who is my children's godmother, one of them, her mom was a stay-at-home mom, but you know, her children were grown. Her her youngest daughter was in high school. And so I asked her if she would be my babysitter, and she hadn't really thought about it, but she did have her first grandchild was going to be born soon after my kids. Like, he's like 6 months younger than my kids. So she did, and so that was a relief because I knew that she was going to take excellent care of them. And all I had to do was just sit back and stay off my feet and get ready to become a mom. And so, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is either part 2 or the rest of my birth story. And so I think where I left off, due to technical difficulties, like, it's a difficult word to say. I think where I left off, I was just in my pregnancy, and I knew I was going to have twins, excuse me, and I was just lazing about. I had joined a couple of forums, found a babysitter. So during my pregnancy, again, I was off work, so I was really bored in the house all the time because everybody else was working. And so I decided, one night my friend asked me if I wanted to go to the drive-in with her and her kids and her nieces, and sure, yeah, let's get out the house. So we went to the drive-in, and yeah, so we were at the drive-in, saw 2 movies, not sure what they were, can't remember, but I do remember getting home at about 2 o'clock in the morning and just itching really bad. And so kept not feeling good. So I noticed some little dots on my arm or something like that, and I was like, oh God, I better go get some calamine lotion. So I really couldn't sleep, and I drove like 15 miles away from my house because I lived in the straight hood of Detroit back then, and there were no 24-hour stores. So I drove into the suburbs, and I went to a Rite Aid, and I was, looking for something, and I asked the pharmacist, I was like, is there something I can put on topical for this rash, and that is, okay for me to take because I'm pregnant? And he looked at me in horror, and he was like, you don't have a rash, you have chicken pox, you need to get to the doctor. So my hospital was right around the corner from there, so I drove over to the hospital. And I've always been very single, very independent, so everything that I've done through my birth story, very few times that I have the assistance of somebody else. So I went over to the oh God, it's so hot. It's 109 degrees today. So I went over to the hospital. They took me into the emergency and right away up to the maternity ward. But this hospital had like offshoots from the nurses station, and there were like 3. So one was for people that they were in labor, 2 was for people that were in recovery, and 3 was just like a hall that looked like it had never been used. It kind of looked like American Horror Story type hall. So yeah, they took me there and they rolled me over and took me into the last room, and I was completely isolated. So they got me in, they got the monitors on the babies, made sure that they were okay, told me again that it was very dangerous for a pregnant mom to have chicken pox. I was far enough into my pregnancy where they were saying that it wasn't a threat for miscarriage, but it was still not a good thing. So, and that's why they had to have me away from the other moms and babies. So, they hooked me up, and then I went to sleep with all the monitors on. The next morning, I got up to go to the bathroom and, just kind of shuffled to the bathroom. Oh my God, I was not prepared to see what greeted me. I had the worst case of chicken pox ever. It was horrendous, and I felt like a leper. I was actually in the hospital for like 5 to 7 days, and nobody could really come visit me because not only was I very contagious, the outside world, they were a threat to me and the babies. So it was very, very isolating. It was, is that a word? I felt very isolated, let's say that. And it was pretty terrible. And I was not too happy at my friend for not letting me know that one of the kids had chicken pox. So then I got out of hospital, back into my pregnancy, and like I said, that was like a midsummer thing. The rest of the summer was really filled with getting ready for the baby. One of my best friends, Sonia, she and I, well, mostly she, worked on painting the baby's nursery, and it was very eclectic. It was pink and green, well, yellow and green, kind of. Well, here's a little picture of it. And so we had different things. One of the things that was cool, when I first found out I was having twins, like in the first 4 or 5 months, I bought some candy from this guy who was selling it for his kids, and he gave me a $2 bill, and I still have that $2 bill to this day. I literally carry it around in my purse. If I remember, I'll take a shot of it. But I think, oh no, I put it in a frame, so that might be a little bit more difficult to find. But you can see the frame sitting right there on the little dresser for the babies. That was the $2 bill that I have, and like I said, I still have it. I'm not sure where I still have it. So yeah, the pregnancy went on without a hitch. Summer just getting bigger and bigger, and you know, by the time I was due, I really had 2 outfits that I could wear. They were both rompers. One was pink and one was like jungle print, and like I literally wore those every day that I left the house. But if I was just in the house, I had on the most hugest pair of panties they made, and a bra, and I was just a very, 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 very huge mess back then. And so, oh no, I just missed my exit. Oh God. Now look how far out of the way I have to go having missed that. That was my own fault. Oh, never mind. I don't have to go that far. So yeah, so that was what I was faced with then. And so Labor Day weekend came, and one of my friends had a barbecue at her house. So I was there, and I was the center of attention because I was as big as a Macy's Thanksgiving Day float. Like, I was huge. And, you know, everybody, oh my God, when are you due? You know, so I was telling them that I'm due on this day. What are you having? I'm having girls. The thing that you don't know about being pregnant until you're pregnant is just how good people treat you. Like, strangers treat you so awesome, and it is like, it is the best feeling in the world just to be treated. You know, I didn't have my family around because they lived out of state, and I didn't have the dad around because he was out of state. So it was just me, and when I would go out in public, I would just feel like the love of the world. People are very kind to pregnant women. Now the funny thing is, as soon as you have the baby, and in this case babies, all the attention completely shifted, and I was in no way prepared for the attention that twins bring. I'll talk to you guys about that in a different story time, but it is kind of phenomenal. So anyway, I went on, and I went to the barbecue, and I was so ready to deliver. At that point, I was 36 weeks, between 36 and 37 weeks, and everybody was very much, oh my goodness, they were very sweet. And so they were giving me tips on how to make the babies come out, and they were like, take a walk, take a this, do that, do that. So but in the back of my mind, as happy and ready as I was to have the babies, I was also very afraid about the delivery. So that was even what a lot of people said, oh my God, you got to push out too. But my doctor had already told me that I was going to have a C-section, And I was thrilled about that. I was really happy to know that I wouldn't have to push them out, wouldn't have to dilate or anything like that. So my only fear at that point was that I wouldn't get to the hospital in time and I'd end up having to have them somewhere without any medication at all. So so that was Monday, was Labor Day, and then Tuesday I had an appointment at my doctor, just my regular appointment. They were seeing me once a week at that time. And so after the appointment, I went to the restroom, and when I used the bathroom, it wasn't like when I normally use the bathroom. It was like whoosh. So I was like, oh my God, I think my water just broke. And so I was at an annex of the hospital where I was going to deliver, and so I went around the corner to the hospital and they took me up to the maternity floor, and they checked me and they said, yeah, it looks like your waters broke, and so, you know, you're going to be having a baby soon. So I thought, you know, it was kind of like on TV, like as soon as your water breaks, and I was just like, where's the doctor? Where's the doctor? We have to get this. And so the doctor, this was like in the afternoon, I want to say like 3 o'clock. So the doctor said he'd be there at 6. And so, you know, I was hooked up to the monitors. I called my best friend, and she came over. My other best friend was at work. So she came, and you know, she and I, we were there, and I was telling her how nervous I was, and she was like, don't worry about it. So then it was time to deliver, and I never had, to this point, I had not yet had a contraction. So the doctor said, okay, we're ready to deliver. We're going to give you an epidural now, and they were just going to numb me from like the waist down. I guess not my legs, but you know, that area, so that they could get the babies out, and you know, I was going to be awake. So I said, okay. So they tried to give me the epidural, and if you've ever had one or known somebody, you have to kind of hunch your back, and they have to get it just right, or some terrible things will happen, or it won't take. I think somebody said you'd be paralyzed, but that could be an exaggeration, or I might be confusing something. So anyway, I was so nervous that they couldn't do the epidural. So the doctor came back in, and he said, all right, hon, they're not able to do it, and we're gonna have to just put you to sleep. And maybe he probably thought I was a drug addict, because the look of relief, I was so ecstatic that I think he took my glee for fear, and he was like, no, you'll be fine. And so he said, you know, your friend won't be able to be in the room now because it's more like surgery. I was like, the hell, who cares? So they put the beautiful little mask over and had me count back, and the next thing I remembered was I woke up and I heard my friend saying, yeah, she's doing fine. She had a little boy that looks just like her, and she has a little girl that looks just like the dad, but she said his name. And I was sitting there, and I was saying, why is she talking about other people? Like, she's supposed to be here. She's supposed to be my coach. So they called her over and told her that I was awake. And meanwhile, the nurse that was assisting me was like, you're going to be okay. Don't worry. We're going to move you now. And so then when they moved me into my room, she came over to me, and I said, why is everybody talking to me like I'm a child? Like, what is wrong with them? And then she goes, you don't know? And sorry about that. Somebody called in, so the video shut off. So she said that I was like crying and telling them I was in pain, and I kept going, ouch, ouch. I don't remember yet, but that's what she said I did. So I said, okay, well, who were you talking to? And she said, I was talking to your mom. And I was like, well, why did you tell her? What are you talking about? She goes, you had the babies. There was a boy and a girl, and I didn't even expect. I was told I was having 2 girls, so now I have this boy, which I always just never saw myself as a mom of a boy. But So she said she told me the same thing, that the son looked just like me and my daughter looked just like her dad, their dad. So they brought them in for me to see them, and of course they were beautiful. Oh my God, they were so tiny though. And my son, he weighed 5 pounds exactly, and my daughter weighed 4 pounds 7 ounces. So next to him, she looked so tiny. She just looked like the littlest bitty, like a tiny little thing. She had a little tuft of hair, and they were just adorable. So I don't have any pictures of them when they were first born. I don't know why. I'm not the traditional mom, but here's the first pictures I had, and this is like when they were 3 months old. So then I had to come up with a name for them, and I had came up with their names when I was in church one Sunday. I was just, flipping through the Bible. I guess I should have been paying attention to the sermon, but flipping through the Bible, and first book was Genesis, and there was a Genesis that was on the Real World, and I always loved that name. And so I said, okay, well, if I named one of the girls Genesis, because this is when I thought I was having 2 girls, what will I name the other baby? So I'm flipping through, and I get to the last chapter of the Old Testament, and it's Malachi. And I love girls' names for boys, so I was like, fine, I'm going to name them Genesis and Malachi. And I was going to name Genesis Lanice after my sister's middle name, and Malachi Michelle after my middle name. And so that was their names, and whoever was born first was going to be Genesis, who was ever second was going to be Malachi. So now I've got a boy and a girl, and the girl was born second, and they were literally born like in the same minute, but they had to write it as 2 different minutes in order for it to be recorded. So they were born at 7:31 and 7:32 p.m. on 9/8/98. So anyway, that would have been even cooler if they were born at 9:08 p.m. But all right, whatever, we'll take it. So I decided to still name them Genesis and Malachi, and I wasn't going to name my son Genesis. I could, but I just decided to name him Malachi, and I named her Genesis. And then she got my sister's middle name, and then my mom actually gave me the middle name Matthew. So his books run into each other, Malachi into Matthew. So he's Malachi Matthew, and wow. So first moment I saw them, of course, absolutely fell in love with them, and have grown deeper and deeper love for them every day since then. They are my whole life. They consume my life. They changed everything about me. And so now we are a half a fortnight, a week away from their 21st birthday, and I'm so excited. It changes everything, because my birthday is September 3rd and theirs is September 8th, and like my whole birthday and everything doesn't even mean anything to me anymore, because it's just everything is about them. And it's funny because they're 21 now, so they can buy really good gifts, exceptional gifts. But I'm like always thrown as to what I want for Mother's Day, what I want for my birthday, because it's like all I want is for them to be healthy and happy, and that's everything that matters to me. But I got to come up with something, because my birthday is in 2 days. So they'll be 21 this year, and my daughter is she is moving to North Carolina. We just moved to Arizona just over 2 years ago, and she's moving back to North Carolina, which is where we moved from, and she's going to go to school out there for accounting. She's going to work out there, so that's where she's what she's up to these days. And my son is a salesperson at a car dealership, and he does really well. I mean, like, they're both awesome kids, and of course they're my kids, so that's how I feel. But I really do, like, they're just the type of people who, like me, if they want to do something, they're going to do it. They don't let anything stop them from achieving what they're trying to set out to do. And so when my son was 18, he said he wanted to sell cars, and like, I can't sell anything. And so I was like, I don't know if you should do that. That seems like it's going to be a hard thing to do. And he was like, no, that's what I want to do. And so that's what he did. He got a job at a dealership. My whole family has always been in like the car business. So my brothers got them in, and he got a job at a dealership, and he does very, very well, and he's just a good salesperson. He's got a great personality, and he's really, really funny. And so, he's determined, like, whatever. He doesn't allow his age to keep him from doing anything. He said he wanted to get whatever he wants, he goes for it. And so I'm really, really proud of him, and I'm proud of my daughter. And yeah, that's their birth story. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't know if I'm going to make it one video or two videos, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel, where I will continue with my weight loss journey. Also, you'll get updates on the kids, and I'll tell more stories about raising twins and what that was like. And just to give you a little teaser, here's a couple of photos of them through the years, my whole life in pictures, well, their whole lives in pictures. And thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video, which will more than likely be my vacation video, because as I said a million times, we are going on a cruise for their 21st birthday, and that is coming up 1 week from tomorrow. So maybe I'll do some getting ready for the cruise videos as well. We'll see. But take care, and thank you so much again for watching. Bye-bye. I'm at my mom's for dinner.